Hi there. It's September the 9th, and we continue our journey through the prophet Isaiah, in Hebrew Yeshayahu, the Lord will save, and we are in chapters 3 to 5. This is the opening section. This is the first section of Isaiah, which is really Isaiah looking to the issues of iniquity in Israel, which is going to receive judgment. In chapter 3, he highlights the lack of leadership in the country. He highlights the fact that there are not strong leaders, and there's all kinds of oppression going on. There's all kinds of inadequate leadership taking place, and that this is leading to the oppression of the poor by the rich. It's also leading to women who display all their riches and parade themselves about, while the poor are being oppressed and are going are really suffering. So this is an issue that is showing injustice, which is really needing the Lord's attention. Then in chapter 4, there's a slight change of tack, in that there's a promise that there will be a remnant left. There will be a time in Israel, time in Judah rather, when the branch of the Lord will be established. Now this branch of the Lord is an indicator that there will be a remnant. It won't be the whole nation, but there'll be a remnant. And this remnant will be purged of the idolatry which has been followed by much of Judah. And when it's purged of the idolatry and of the sin, there'll be a return of the Lord to Zion. And there's this beautiful picture at the end of chapter 4 of the Lord coming in his fire and dwelling, and the Lord will be a canopy over his people. So that there's not just a promise of judgment, but also a promise of restoration, that the Lord is wanting to return his glory. But then in chapter 5 we have the famous Song of the Vineyard, where the prophet likens Israel to a vineyard that has been planted, and it's the song of the Lord, and he's saying, I planted this vineyard, I dug it around, I prepared it, I cared for it, but actually it produced sour grapes. The old version has wild grapes. It produced grapes that were of no good for wine, and therefore it has to be pulled up, it has to be destroyed, and it's needing to be taken away from its roots of oppression. There's a lot of oppression that's going on. There's a play on words that is used at one point, which we might render in English as instead of equity there is iniquity, instead of equity, iniquity. And the Lord is looking for equity. He's looking for justice. He's looking for right balances, and instead there's just oppression going on. The people are indulging in the pagan feasts. They are getting drunk. They're playing a harlot. They're pursuing gods, non-gods, other than the one true God, and therefore God will judge. And at one point Isaiah says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes, those who are self-righteous, those who are making up the rules for themselves and making that the measure of holiness and goodness. The measure of goodness, the authority for goodness, comes from the Lord, and he says, I am going to repay for this. What these wild grapes that have grown, these sour grapes that have grown, are going to be pulled up. It's a very sobering assessment, but also, as I say, in chapter 4 there is this intention that God's glory should be restored to Israel, and it should form a covering over them. When we come into that place of faith in Messiah Jesus, when we put our commitment in him, we will see his glory come. We can be his glory carriers and his image bearers and the fully human people he's calling us to be, and we can see that covering, that canopy of glory over us. May it come, and may it cover us by his Holy Spirit today. Have a very good September the 9th.